I believe it was last year when I did a video and I forgot what I titled it, but it was in the similar context of when the trash takes itself out. Well, this story that I'm about to talk about right now pretty much probably is going to line up with the same thing. We can't really exactly prove it just yet, but many people who have seen this story are coming to the same consensus that I am. And I'm going to tell you what my theory is when I get to the end of the article. But this person's name is Judge John Michalski, and he was a judge in New York. And a couple weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, his home was raided by the police, by the NYPD. And we don't know what they found or what they were looking for, but apparently whatever they were looking for was enough for this man to kill himself. Now, the crazy part about it is he didn't commit suicide right after they raided his home. It was weeks after, so some time had passed, which leads me to believe that whatever they found, they were about to get him on. And instead of him facing the consequences, he decided to take himself out. I think by now, some of you are probably figuring out what it is that I might be alluding to, but I'll tell you about it at the end. A veteran New York State judge killed himself less than 2 weeks. So this wasn't even a month ago. This is less than 2 weeks after his home was raided by investigators, according to one of his attorneys. John Michalski, acting justice on the Erie County Supreme Court, died by suicide Tuesday at his Amherst home, where federal and state law enforcement officers had executed a search warrant 12 days earlier. He was 61. It's heartbreaking, defense attorney Terrence Connors told the newspaper. He was such a good guy, this just didn't have to happen. Michalski, he was appointed to the New York Court of Claims and as an acting Supreme Court justice in 2006, had been eyed by investigators for years, but no criminal charges were ever filed against him. His looming legal woes seemed to be quote unquote manageable, Connors told the newspaper. So it seems to me like they, based on what I'm reading, this wasn't just a thing that they were just now going after him for. They said that they had him under investigation or had been under the microscope of investigators for years. But it's just that they didn't have enough to really push forward with an investigation. The judge's death came a little over a year after he was struck by a slow-moving freight train in Depew in what was believed to be a suicide attempt. He suffered a serious leg injury but survived. So this wasn't his first time trying to commit suicide. So the question is, what was he hiding? Days after the February 2021 incident, Michalski was questioned by federal agents about his friendship with Peter Garris Jr., the owner of a strip club in Cheektowaga and a former client, the Buffalo News reported. Michalski was injured by the freight train on the same day. Garachi, I'm guessing that's Garachi. It may be Italian. Was charged with several felonies, including drug and sex trafficking, as well as bribing a federal agent. Garachi denies the allegations, according to the newspaper. Now, listen to that right there. Drugs and sex trafficking. So it looks like we're getting a little bit deep into the rabbit hole with what this guy has been involved with, just based on who he associated with. This guy owned a strip club, and it's alleged that he was also involved in other like felonious things. And I'm talking about this Garachi guy. And keep in mind, he was still a judge at the time of this happening. It was just last year. Years earlier, Michalski was eyed by the feds as investigators probed Garachi and a retired Drug Enforcement Administration agent Joseph Bongiovanni in June 2019. The DEA agent told investigators Garachi was pals with Michalski. Their friendship dates back 2 decades. Attorney Anthony Lana, who was also representing the judge, told the Buffalo News. Michalski wrote a letter to William Sketney, a federal judge in New York in 2006, asking for leniency on behalf of Garachi, who was awaiting sentencing for a felony wire fraud conviction. He described Garachi as a client and a friend. Sketney cut Garachi a slight break, giving him 5 months in prison when federal sentencing guidelines suggested anywhere from 8 to 12 months. FBI agents continued probing Michalski's connection to Garachi following the train incident and were seeking evidence of tax crimes during the March 24th raid at his home. two government sources told the Buffalo News. So now we're getting even more into what they were looking for. So now they're saying tax crime. So this guy apparently wasn't paying Queen Iris. And for those of you who don't know, I call the IRS Queen Iris. Investigators seized documents connected to a small online business operated by Michalski's wife, Susan. Lana told the Buffalo News. Michalski's caseload was transferred one day after the raid, and no cases were to be assigned to him until further notice. According to the State Office of Court Administration, he had returned to the bench in January after taking leave following the train accident. The judge was also the subject of an investigation by the State Attorney General's office connected to possible corruption. One source familiar with the matter told the New York Times. No charges had been filed against him in the inquiry, the newspaper reported. Michael is survived by his wife and 4 children. Now, when you listen to all of that, this guy had so much corruption, it makes you wonder how in the hell he became a judge. But then again, a lot of these judges are corrupt, but then have the nerve to sit in a black robe behind a bench and bang a gavel and let the lives of someone else be in their hands. The person that they're probably about to sentence could have done way less than they ever could, or ever have done, and ever will do. Like, this guy has been connected to people who could have possibly been involved in human and drug trafficking. And it sounds like to me he had tax issues. So this guy had a lot going on. And they said that he's been investigated. If I got $1 for every time the word investigation or investigator was written in this article, I could probably buy me a few groceries. So this guy just sounds like he just had a life of corruption. But my theory was, of why he took his life was, could he have been possibly that P word? And y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. But nothing in the article is alluding to that, but they're talking about other things that he was involved in. Now, you got to question yourself. This guy has been under investigation and eyed by the feds for a few years. They can never get him on anything. Look at who he was connected to, who he was friends with. Look at how he tried to take himself out the first time by getting hit by a train. It didn't work. That's actually shocking in itself. And then he gets his home raided, and in almost 2 weeks later, he kills himself. So this guy was very corrupt in a lot of ways. But they're not saying or stating why he killed himself. But when you look at all the things that he's been involved with, why he tried to kill himself the first time and why he was successful this time, the guy just wasn't any good. I know they're going to try to cape for him and say, he was this good guy. That's because that's the version of him that you saw. But behind the scenes, behind the curtains, this guy was far from good. And like I said, a lot of these judges and lawyers and attorneys and these politicians have more dirt on them than Pigpen from Peanuts, aka Charlie Brown. But yeah, what do y'all think? What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. What do you think? Why do you think the reason is that he committed suicide? I might actually pin that at the top of the comment section just to see what y'all have to say, just so I can read the responses a little bit more easier.